They didn't just poison my lake. They murdered Big Bertha. For 3 years straight, every single dawn, she came gliding up to my dock like clockwork. A base so massive, so legendary, I nicknamed her Big Bertha. 8 pounds of muscle, gleaming scales that shimmered in the morning light, a living monument of patience and time. I'd feed her, talk to her like an old friend, and watch her grow. But that morning, she was floating belly up. Her and nearly 200 other fish. Bluegill, catfish, crappie, an entire ecosystem wiped out overnight. Why? Because the HOA president, a woman who thinks she rules this neighborhood like a queen, decided that my lake didn't fit her aesthetic vision. So she dumped thousands of dollars worth of industrial chemicals into it. I can still smell it if I close my eyes. Sharp, burning, metallic stench that clung to the air. Copper sulfate mixed with rotting flesh. Kind of smell that doesn't just hit your nose, it crawls into your lungs. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just vandalism. This wasn't just petty HOA politics. This was a mistake that would come back to haunt her in ways she couldn't even imagine. Because the thing. Every single house in her fancy subdivision, all 847 of them, gets its drinking water from the same underground spring that feeds my lake. Every faucet, every shower, every sip of water at their dinner tables flows from the aquifer running beneath my property. So when she poisoned my fish, she poisoned her entire neighborhood. She had no idea what was coming next. Hey everyone, my name's Marcus Reed. I'm 52 years old. A retired electrician turned solar panel installer living out here in Pine Ridge, North Carolina. The kind of guy who believes in fixing things with my hands, minding my own business, and enjoying what little peace and quiet life still has to offer. My family's owned this land, 12 acres with a spring-fed lake, since 1952. Back then, this whole area was just fields of tobacco and woods, thick with cypress and oak. My grandfather built the dock with his own hands, and for 70 years it's been our sanctuary. Every morning before sunrise, I de-walk that gravel path, the one my grandfather laid down himself, boots crunching on stones worn smooth by decades of fishermen. The dock planks felt warm under my hands, still damp with dew. Honeysuckle perfumed the air, blending with the crisp mineral scent of spring water. Herons would glide across the lake. Bass would jump at dawn. It was perfect. It was peace. Until the developers arrived. About 15 years ago, the land around my lake got sold off. The developers built what's now known as Willow Creek Estates, minus 847 giant homes, starting at 600 grand apiece. McMansions lined up like Monopoly pieces, every one of them desperate for lake views. They offered me millions to sell my property. They wanted my lake to be their private clubhouse centerpiece. I told them they could shove their millions and build their golf course in hell. Most of the new neighbors were fine. Some even waved, asked about fishing. But then she arrived. Vivian Blackwater. Let me paint you a picture. She's in her late 40s. Drives a spotless white Lexus SUV, polished so much it reflects the sun like a mirror. She carries a leather portfolio even when she's at a barbecue. She talks like she's in a courtroom, using words like property value optimization and aesthetic compliance when she's just ordering a cup of coffee. The kind of person who probably schedules her bathroom breaks. Within 6 months of moving in, she crowned herself president of the HOA, and from that day forward, she turned community improvement into her personal dictatorship. Her first attack came in the form of an official, certified letter, stamped and signed. According to her, my unsightly fishing activities were ruining her peaceful enjoyment of the neighborhood. Imagine paying $800,000 for a house with a lake view, and then being offended because you actually see someone using the lake. She threatened lawsuits, claiming my dock violated neighborhood covenants. Here's the thing. Though my family's property existed decades before Willow Creek Estates was even a sketch on paper, those HOA rules don't apply to me. Knowledge nugget. If your property predates an HOA, their rules usually cannot be applied retroactively. Your deed is your shield. But intimidation wasn't enough for her. When her first complaint got laughed out of court, she turned up the harassment. I'd be out fishing at 6 a.m., the mist still rolling across the water, when suddenly her landscaping crew would appear. Chainsaws, leaf blowers, mowers, all roaring at full blast on the property line. Diesel fumes choking the air, drowning out birdsong, turning my peaceful mornings into the soundtrack of highway construction. She was paying thousands just to ruin one man's fishing trips. And when that didn't work, she hired a land surveyor, the most expensive one in 3 counties, to verify the property line. They spent 6 hours mapping boundaries that had been set in stone since Truman was president. 3 days later, I got a registered letter from her lawyer. According to her surveyor, my dock extended exactly 6 inches into community water rights. 6 inches. And yes, she actually filed a lawsuit. While that crawled through the system, she went digital. Her Facebook campaign in the Willow Creek Estates group made me out to be some kind of neighborhood villain. According to her, I was destroying property values. The comment section turned into a lynch mob overnight. But here's the thing about fighting dirty. If you're going to start digging, you'd better hope your opponent doesn't dig deeper. And I dug. Down in the courthouse basement, I pulled up every dusty old deed I could find, and I struck gold. My grandfather didn't just buy the land, he bought the water rights. Every drop in that lake, every spring that fed it, even the aquifer beneath it, all of it belonged to us. Legally, every time Vivian and her neighbors flushed their toilets or filled a glass of water, they were using my water. I called my lawyer buddy Tom, and he just about fell out of his chair laughing. "Marcus," he said, "you're not just holding a defense. You're holding a nuclear weapon disguised as a property deed." So we filed a countersuit, harassment, slander, abusive legal process, and I made sure it landed at the perfect moment. Vivian was hosting one of her big dinner parties. 40-plus HOA members, sipping champagne and nibbling catered salmon, talking about their property taxes like they were auditioning for a real estate commercial. Right in the middle of her speech about community standards, our county sheriff strolled in through the back gate. "Ma'am, I need to serve you with some legal documents." You could have heard a pin drop. The look on her face when she realized she was being sued, priceless. Her foundation couldn't hide how pale she turned. "This is harassment," she shrieked, loud enough to rattle the wine glasses. "That redneck is trying to intimidate me with frivolous lawsuits." Her guests scattered like pigeons. But Vivian? Oh no, she wasn't done. The very next morning, there was a note on my windshield. "Stop fishing, or face the consequences." And that's when the war escalated into something darker. Because what she did next crossed every line. I came back from a weekend trip to find my lake glowing neon green, stinking of chemicals. 2 figures in protective suits had been caught on security footage at 2 a.m., dumping toxins into the water. My lake, my family's lake, my heritage, gone. 200 fish, gone. An entire ecosystem sterilized for years, all because one woman couldn't stand the sight of someone fishing. What she didn't realize? Those same chemicals were now in her water supply, flowing into every faucet, every shower, every ice cube tray in Willow Creek Estates. It's the neighborhood she thought she was protecting. She had just poisoned it with her own hands. And that's when the real storm began.